Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're looking at a very modern, and honestly, a very awkward reality that a lot of businesses are running headfirst into right now. Picture this. You launch a brand new AI tool. The executive team? They're thrilled. The company dashboard proudly declares your team AI-enabled. And yet, somehow everyone is actually working more hours than before. We're drawing on some really fantastic operational insights today to break down exactly why this happens. We'll look at how output gets confused with efficiency and how to actually fix the architecture of your workflow. It's this incredibly strange phenomenon, right? A technology built specifically to save us time ends up stealing it in entirely new ways. We're going to pull apart the mechanics of a bad AI implementation, look at why it adds a second layer of work instead of removing the first, and show you what it really takes to get this right.
Okay, let's dive into this because it's the central irony of modern deployment. AI was supposed to save time, so why is everyone suddenly in another meeting? You bring in a tool specifically designed to cut down your team's workload, and well, the next thing you know, your calendar is absolutely swamped with internal coordination calls just to figure out what the AI is actually doing. It's a massive reality check, and it's catching a lot of business leaders completely off guard. It turns what should be a technological leap into an administrative bottleneck. I mean, the whole point was to free up bandwidth so your team could focus on high-level strategy, right? Instead, they're stuck in conference rooms debating whether the summary generated by your new copilot actually captured the client's main concerns. The tool is technically functioning, sure, but operationally, it's dragging everything down.
Think back for a second to the original, almost utopian expectation we all had. The business case was incredibly simple and, let's be honest, very persuasive. AI was going to reduce admin, speed up replies, summarize massive documents, and handle all those repetitive, mind-numbing tasks that completely bogged down a typical Tuesday. It was supposed to effortlessly make the team more efficient. That was the promise. But producing high-volume AI output is actually very, very different from reducing your team's operational friction. We kind of just assumed that if a machine could write an email or synthesize a 50-page report in, say, 3 seconds, the human work attached to those tasks would just vanish. What we didn't account for is that output without accuracy, context, or integration. It really just creates a brand new pile of reading material for someone else to process.
Let's move to and see how this builds. It's like a cascading nightmare that happens right after a new system goes live. Launch day happens, morale is incredibly high, the internal newsletter goes out celebrating the company's leap into the future. Then, week 1 hits. Suddenly, a new recurring meeting pops up on your calendar. It's called something like AI Review and Alignment. By week 2, there is a workflow issues check-in because the AI output is almost right but not quite usable enough to actually send to a client. And then, by week 3, someone schedules a 45-minute call just to ask, hey, who actually approves this stuff? Nobody ever said AI would create an entirely new meeting culture, but here we are. The business is now spending all its supposedly saved time checking, fixing, explaining, and working around the AI's output, just to keep the lights on.
And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute core of the problem. What usually happens is that the old process stays perfectly in place. The legacy systems, the old approval chains, those manual double checks, they don't go away. Instead, the new AI process is just added directly on top of it all. So the work didn't disappear, it multiplied. Because the AI was dropped beside the workflow instead of being designed into it, your team now has to do the work, check the AI, correct the AI, explain the AI to each other, and then ultimately just finish the task the old way to be safe. It's honestly like hiring an assistant who is incredibly fast at typing but terrible at listening. You still have to rewrite every single letter they draft. The technology is present, but the integration is fundamentally broken.
Which leads directly to a very common and very awkward scene. Someone inevitably asks, are we trusting this? Let's just discuss it in the meeting. Imagine the AI summarizes a critical client discovery call, but it misses the one tiny, nuanced detail about the budget that actually mattered to closing the deal. Or maybe it drafts a reply that is technically correct, but completely tone-deaf to the client's current frustrations. Well, the team immediately loses trust. So a manager reviews it, a staff member compares it to the original transcript, someone manually updates the old CRM anyway. And slowly, the AI just becomes another tab to manage. When trust breaks down, human verification scales up. Suddenly, a tool that was meant to be autonomous requires constant hands-on babysitting from your absolute most expensive talent.
When that happens, you have to face a pretty harsh reality. That is not automation. That is admin with better branding. Just because an AI is generating a draft or spitting out a slick recommendation does not mean it is reducing actual operational friction. More output is not the same as less work. If a tool that's meant to remove friction creates an approval maze where people are chasing and correcting everything it does, you haven't automated anything at all. A draft, a summary, or a recommendation, it still creates massive organizational friction if people have to review, rework, and discuss it every single time. It's a really critical distinction we have to make here. Busy work generated by an algorithm is still busy work.
So how do we actually fix this without tearing our hair out? The problem is usually not that AI cannot help. It absolutely can. The problem is execution. It comes down to methodology. Omnisenti approaches this by treating AI integration not as some casual IT drop-in, but as a deliberate architectural redesign. They focus heavily on audit and blueprint design, architecture and integration, and governance. They draw a hard line. AI should not create more coordination work. Instead of dropping AI beside your team, this methodology designs AI inside the workflow properly. It's about mapping out the entire operational load first, establishing clean handoffs, eliminating duplicated steps, and building in human review points that actually make sense, rather than leaving the team to figure it out on the fly.
So the crucial point is, the entire philosophy boils down to this. The goal is not to make the project heavier, it is to make the business lighter. There is a massive difference between an AI that is merely technically active, producing drafts and summaries all day, and an AI that is operationally useful. Reduced work means your team actually spends less time chasing, checking, and meeting about the thing the AI was supposed to handle. The standard of success isn't boasting about using cutting-edge tech in your weekly all-hands. It's being able to honestly say, you know what, the work is actually easier now. When the AI is seamlessly woven into the daily rhythm, it becomes invisible. It lifts the administrative weight without demanding constant attention or demanding yet another sync-up on the calendar.
Which brings us to our final thought. As you look at your own operations, the question is not, is the AI doing something? The much better question you should be asking your leadership team is the AI actually making work lighter? Because if your team still needs another weekly meeting to decide whether the AI actually helped, well, the problem is not the automation. The problem is the implementation. If your rollout is creating more checking and coordination than true momentum, it's probably time to rethink how it's integrated. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Take a hard look at your workflows this week and see if your tech is truly lifting the weight or just adding to it.